Society Matters.
Hello, and welcome back to HMTV here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan, here on Raised by Survivors. I've brought on a lot of second-generation Holocaust survivors, but this one is very unique, and he's a very special person. He's been here at the museum giving tours to young people since 2004, so he's got a lot of experience. We're going to find out what that experience is, but also find out what it was like being raised by survivors. Sid Waxman. Thank you, Sid, for being here.
You're welcome.
I know you for a few years, as long as I've been here for, I don't know, a number of years, 4 or 5. And you've always impressed me. You've got a very warm personality, very engaging. And I've seen you talk to students, and they listen to what you say very carefully. Why do you do what you do?
Well, it's my way of giving back. Because for a long time, it was more like hiding my background, so to speak, in a sense. But it wasn't until the point where I decided, it was about time to really delve into the history of my parents and what they went through, because they wouldn't speak of it. Their friends, they would speak among themselves constantly. We always moved to where there were other survivors. That's their way of getting along and going forward.
Right.
And it enabled me to learn from my father's friends and my mother's friends, because they knew their story, and that's the only way I learned it, because they wouldn't speak of it.
When we were young, we had less interest in giving back, per se. And that's because we were focused on, our own careers, raising a family, and the hectic life that we all have in doing so, bringing kids to after-school programs, sports, blah, 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 college. And then you settle down. And then you reflect back.
You start learning.
You start learning, but I missed my parents a lot. And I wanted to know more. And here, I had a dilemma. I have a lot of questions, but they're not around to ask.
Yeah.
And no matter how many young people we want to get involved, it's not easy. We have some young people involved, but it's still not easy. Because understandably, we all went through it. They're concerned about their future, they're learning, they're studying, they're raising families. They have a lot of things on their plate. But would you agree that most of the docents and educators come here when they're a little older and more appreciative of their heritage?
I would say that's correct. I know most that I have met really came here later on in life.
We have to find a way to get younger people more involved. But I know eventually they will be involved when they get older. That's the thing. I think that's where the turnover is.
The ones that I saw that were very, very interested, I'm going back to before the pandemic. They came from other countries. And in the school systems, they were set up and they tried to have them mingle. But when we had a survivor speak, they would listen and come up and kiss the survivor afterwards.
Isn't that
they didn't
something?
want to leave.
That's the connection there, the humanity, right? Because we all have the potential to suffer like that.
Yes.
And nobody wants to, right? But we all become empathetic. This is what happened. It arouses empathy in young people, right? They become
so true.
They try to see, well, not that they try to see, they see what life is like when you're being oppressed, when you're being persecuted, when you lose your family, because they can relate to that. They have a family and they think about what it's like if they lost their family. And that wakes them up. I think most of society is unconscious.
I'd say that's a fairly
And
accurate
places
statement.
like this is what wakes them up. Right? And so we don't have enough places like this to wake them up.
Correct.
We need more places like this and more people going out there to wake people up. I think we're unconsciously following false leaders throughout the many years in this society and culture. And we need more humanitarians, you know.
I find that people are afraid to lead. And
Right.
why, I don't understand.
Well, because you get persecuted as a leader, right?
Always.
They tear you apart. The media tears you apart. Aside from all of that, you grew up as a second-generation Holocaust survivor. You know, trauma is passed on from generation to generation. They say it takes 7 generations to clear up that kind of trauma. What was your life like growing up with your parents? And when did you realize that it was different from the way other kids grew up?
I'd have to say it was when, more or less just before I went to junior high school. It took that long, really.
Yeah. So that you must have been around 12, 11 when they started telling you about the Holocaust?
Well, as I said, my folks really didn't tell me
Right.
very much.
Right. But that's when you realized it was different?
I realized it was different because all of a sudden the people I've been speaking to had no idea what I was talking about. I said, but it was normal. Besides playing punch ball in the street,
Right.
you know, you afterwards you got together, you made sure your mother would call you up, it's time to eat, and you said, no, I haven't finished the game.
Right.
But before that, you knew that you had to do something in order to make sure she wouldn't bother you. So you'd come up and you'd get something to eat. Of course, what are you going to eat? And that would depend on what was going on in the kitchen.
Were the other kids' parents, doting over their kids as much as your mother?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that weren't were the ones who parents were not survivors. It
Right.
didn't come from Europe.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So, where did you grow up?
As I said, I was born in Germany.
Right.
After the war, I'd say in the end of 1949, we moved to the United States.
Right. What part of, was it New York City?
Actually, no, they sent us to Boston.
To Boston, okay.
Why, we didn't know,
Right.
because we had no family in Boston. We had family in Jamaica.
I see.
And we had family in the Rockaways.
Right.
So Boston sounded logical to them, I guess.
Okay. And were there people that they could associate with up there?
They found some.
They did find
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't hard,
Okay.
you know.
And they played punch ball? You played punch ball?
Oh, definitely.
We played punch ball in Brooklyn. I loved playing punch ball.
Well, we moved from that area to Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
We were in Manhattan for several years. Then we moved to the Bronx.
To the Bronx, okay.
And then from the Bronx, we moved to Brooklyn.
To Brooklyn, okay. Okay, so you made a full circle there in New
I
York
went to
City.
school in Staten Island.
Wow, okay.
So Queens is the only place we missed, except
There you
my
go.
father had a store in Queens.
There you go,
We
full
covered the
circle.
5 boroughs.
Did you enjoy your life as a kid in Brooklyn?
Oh, yes.
What part of Brooklyn?
We were in Canarsie.
Okay, so that's not too far from where I was. I was on Avenue S and 52nd Street. So that was pretty close to Canarsie.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved growing up in Brooklyn. Now, we moved to an area that was not surrounded by a lot of Holocaust survivors or Jewish people. It was a mixed community. There were Irish families, there were Italian, mostly Italian families. And I think we were the only Jewish family on the block.
See, where I lived was primarily the Jewish families. Next block over would have been Italian
Right.
in one direction. In the other direction, you would have Irish.
Now, I had friends, from every walk of life, honestly. I loved them all. But I knew there was there was a special connection with the other Jewish kids because we shared some kind of a common history, some kind of a heritage, because these kids were also second-generation survivors. Not all of them were American kids, American Jewish kids. Most of them were, and I guess maybe that's why my parents moved to that area, because they were looking for friends who they could relate to. And we all went up to the Catskills in the summer.
Of course.
You did too?
Yes.
What did your parents feed you? Or did you eat American food, or did you eat European food at home?
It depends on what age. The reason I say it depends on what age, because when I started going to junior high school and all, I really stopped eating whatever was in the house.
Right? And was that American food, do you recall?
No, that wasn't primarily
right.
American food.
That's what I find to be the case with most 2Gs, that they grew up in homes that usually the mother made, European food. I ate a lot of Polish food. And I thought everybody ate Polish food until I find out that my next door neighbors, they're having meatballs and spaghetti, and that's what I wanted. I wanted hot dogs. I wanted, my mom didn't make those things until later on. She realized that I'm not eating her picha or kishka. Did you eat kishka?
Oh, yes.
You have fond memories of kishka?
Yes, I enjoyed kishka.
I actually liked it. They don't make kishka the same anymore.
No.
What else?
Don't make anything the
what
same.
What else did you eat? Tell me some of the foods that you ate that you recall.
Oh, let's see. My mother would, I forgot what it was called.
Picha?
Could be.
Yeah.
It took like 24 hours to make.
Chulent?
Oh, definitely chulent.
Yeah. That's cement, but it's good going down.
Yeah.
Right? It's not great coming out, but it's great going down. It was delicious. There was something very comforting. That's the point I want to make. So this food that they made was comfort food for them.
Correct.
They were reliving their lives because that's what they knew. It ended terribly.
Yeah.
But before that, they had fond memories.
My father was the one who mainly changed that aspect, because when he finally had a store and everything, and he opened up, he was now eating from outside,
Right.
bringing in.
Yeah.
And that changed everything in the house now, pretty much.
Sure.
Of course, the one thing that we always wanted was fresh bread.
Fresh bread,
There were 3 bakeries within a block of each other.
Yeah, they loved their bread. My dad every Friday would pick up challah bread from Lord's Bakery on Nostrand Avenue. And a lot of rye bread. They would eat rye bread up and down. We had like at least 3 loaves of rye bread at any given moment. And they had it sliced in the bakery. It wasn't the ones that are pre-sliced and packaged in the factory. No, this was the real deal. It was really good. And they bought a lot of the spreads, the cream cheeses, the lox. The lox back in the day was a little different than it is today. It was definitely a lot more oilier.
True.
And they got sable, right? Did you ever eat sable?
I ate sable.
That was pretty good. I can't seem to find a good sable anymore.
My father enjoyed lox tremendously. Mm-hmm. And he liked it pickled. I don't like pickled lox. I like lox, but not pickled.
Right. What about herring?
Oh, he loved herring.
Right.
Me, I'm a little off
with
on
onions
that.
or like...
For him...
Or with the cream sauce.
I don't remember cream sauce.
Right, yeah. That was pretty good. Look, as an adult, if I never ate that food and you asked me to eat these things, like kishka, and you told me that it was stuffed intestines, I said, get it away from me. But I loved it. It really, it's so interesting how we judge other cultures with the food that they eat. Like, there's cultures that eat snails and, frogs' legs and calf, well, even Jews ate calf brains, chicken feet, duck bills, all of these things. You can eat just about anything that's got protein in it. But we judge other cultures, but who are we to judge? Some of the foods that we eat that we think is great, like chopped liver, is, different for sure. I don't know as an adult if I was asked to eat this that I would, venture. But I might try it. But I love it only because I was raised on it.
Now, in my case, I went away from what was made at home. So I started eating everything and anything that I wanted to taste.
What was your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
I would guess it would be, besides the cold cuts, because I lived on cold cuts most of the time. It didn't make a difference what.
Yeah.
And I would go out, and my father would say, "Why are you ordering that?" What do you mean? He says, "You don't eat snails."
We eat chopped liver. The other disgusting thing. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, after a certain time, like you said, when I got to become a teenager, I started venturing out and buying my own food. But my mother panicked, and she bought shake and bake. And she raised us on shake and bake because she didn't know how to make any American food per se. But I loved eggplant parmesan. That was my favorite. Still is my favorite. You've been involved in this center for quite a number of years. Actually, it's your 21st anniversary here. 20th anniversary last year. Did you realize that you were here 20 years?
No.
God bless you. What do you hope for the future for the kids, for this next generations?
To really wake up in a sense and see what the world is doing. How can we make it better? What do we have to do in order to make sure that everybody has a way of going forth and not just surviving, but flourishing?
Right.
It's an important aspect to be able to come forth and start from nothing and go to something.
Right.
You can start from something and still go further.
Right.
But to go forward is the important aspect.
Absolutely. And do great things for other people. I think the most satisfying thing, and I'm sure you agree, is being in a service business or industry. And we're kind of like in a service industry.
True.
And we're dealing with people, and it's very rewarding. I find it very rewarding in helping others and improving the quality of their lives. Because what it does is improve the quality of my life. Somehow it bounces back. I don't know, I just feel good about it. Sometimes it's worth more than money that you make. It's worth more than, the things that you own. It's worth more because you feel like you have a value in society. You feel valuable.
You always feel good when you can put a smile on somebody's face.
Right.
Bring some knowledge that they haven't known. It gives you a feeling of accomplishment.
You've taught police officers, police cadets here?
Only a few times.
Right. What was the most interesting group of people that you've met here that you felt so good about that you felt like, wow, I really feel satisfied. I think I impacted this group of people. It's going to change the way they see the world.
I believe there was a group that we had here on the weekends. Mm-hmm. They were from the Catholic schools. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, they had no knowledge of what Jewish life was like and what they went through at all. I said, I couldn't understand that.
Did they know the term Holocaust? Or maybe they heard of it, but
they've heard of it, but didn't know what it really was.
Yeah.
And
they were surprised.
Surprised. They couldn't believe it. How could anybody do something like this?
This is how protected and naive we can be as a society, right?
That's so true.
And it's going on around the world, like in the Sudan.
It's like a cycle.
In various parts of
Every few years,
Yeah.
it comes back, and you start from the bottom and have to work all the way up again.
Yeah. It's true, right? It does. So, we don't want never again. We say never again. We don't want history to repeat itself. We want to learn from the lessons. That's what we keep talking about. That's what we do here. This is where we wake people up. But no matter what we do, there's always that tendency that history goes through cycles, like you just said. I don't know if it can be stopped.
You always tell people to read what happened before Question is, do they read and understand what happened before, or do they just not read and they see it happening now and say, oh, it's the first time? It's not.
Right. Oh, it's happened gazillions of times. And it's kind of sad. It's a sad state of humanity.
It's the old story.
It is the old story.
If you don't learn from history, you repeat it.
Right, but the question is, do we want to learn from history? I think every generation wants to have their own, nuances and styles and identity, where they create their own reality, and they don't really care about the past. But they're, like if I want to fix something, and I take it apart. Let's say I have a piece of equipment that's broken, so I take it apart. And I'm trying to fix it, and oh my God, now I realize there's a screw that I left outside, and I don't know where that screw went. You don't have to reinvent the wheel sometimes. Sometimes you got to just go to YouTube and see what somebody else has learned from it, and shows you, when you do this, make sure to do it that way, and don't forget that screw to put it in here. And so we maybe don't want to learn from others. Maybe it's hard for us, maybe because it's the human ego. We all feel like we're smart and we can do it on our own and we don't need help. Maybe that's where this is coming from. Maybe this generation feels like it doesn't need help and it can do this on its own. It doesn't need to be educated.
I believe they just don't want to read instructions.
Maybe that's it. That's another thing.
I know better.
Yeah.
You find that by doing what you think is right is not always right.
That's true.
Somebody has done it before. They know what you're going to go through.
Right.
Take a look, listen, learn, then go forth and do it your way. Mm-hmm. But know what they told you.
Exactly.
So that you can make a correction when you feel it's not working right.
That's when young people need to talk to older people and get some wisdom from them. They have programs where they bring young people, where they engage them with people in homes, and so they can not only make them feel better, but learn some of their wisdom, so that some of the wisdom can, be transmitted from the older person to the younger person. Well, and sometimes you don't necessarily have to tell somebody like it's a lesson, but it's just the way you behave, just the way you act. You can learn from people's behaviors. And I did from my dad. I learned a lot of his wisdom by the fact that he would wash his tools. He would make me wash his tools until they were brand new. And that was a lesson, to be grateful for the things that you have and don't take it for granted. Because he pointed it out to me. He says, look at this guy, look at his tools. It's got cement all over it. He doesn't appreciate what he's got. Yeah, he doesn't care. Look at my tools. It's brand new. I never have to buy new tools. He never bought new tools. He had tools for 50 years. They even shrunk in size, like the trowels, I would wash them, and they thinned down. They got smaller and smaller, but he still used it. But the fact is that he was grateful and appreciative with what he had. He didn't take anything for granted. And I think that's one of the life lessons of the Holocaust, and I'm sure you learned that. Can you recount anything that you learned from your parents just by their behaviors?
Basically, to make sure you treat everybody with a respect. Because if you don't, it's only going to come back at you.
Oh, that's interesting.
We always try to make sure that whoever you spoke to and dealt with understood that you believe they're a person and they should believe that you are a person.
Right.
Have the same respect for you that you have for them.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's a great way to close this show. Sid, that goes fast, doesn't it?
Yes.
This was a great conversation. I love talking with you. You're a mensch plus, and we're grateful to have you here and grateful for all the work you've done over the many years here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. So I honor you, and I honor all of those that are listening in and watching our podcasts here on HMTV. Make sure to share and like our podcasts. We've got some great content here, so spread the good word. Let's all do great things together. I'm Bernie Furshpan, host of Raised by Survivors here on HMTV. Until next time.